Tonight on Need to Know, two candidates in the race for family court judge will make history if elected this fall. The gap they're working to fill and why it matters. That's next. Also on the show, teens celebrating and highlighting other teens. We'll learn how a radio program is promoting conversations among young people about the issues that concern them. Stay with us. These stories and more coming up right now on Need to Know. It's been called a gavel gap. That term refers to a lack of diversity in American courtrooms. In so many words, it means a number of American judges do not represent the people they serve, whether by race, ethnic background, or gender. That stands true for Monroe County as well, in particular when it comes to our focus tonight, family court. The Monroe County Democratic Committee and a committee within that group wants to change that, and it could happen this fall. Joining me at the desk to dig into this issue is Christopher Thomas, partner at Nixon Peabody and also a member of WXXI's Board of Trustees. Zulika Shepard, a Democratic judicial candidate for the Monroe County Family Court race. Fatima Reed, also a Democratic judicial candidate for Monroe County Family Court. And Aaron Frazier, Senior Associate Attorney of Business and Commercial Litigation at Harris Beach. Welcome to all of you, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
So just to get started, Fatima and Zulika, it's been reported in our region that if both of you are elected this November to the two open seats, the Monroe County Family Court race, you will be the first African-American women elected to that spot. So for people meeting you for the very first time tonight, what do you want them to know about you and why are you running? And I will start with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I want people to know that I care about the children and that I am serious about becoming a family court judge. Family court is all about the children. It's best interest of the children. I was born and raised in the city of Rochester. I was raised up in a single parent home. The reason for that was because my father, although he was a good man, he was addicted to crack cocaine. And so I know what it's like, the pain that it feels to have a father that was addicted to drugs, broken home, things of that nature. So I believe that as a family court judge, I would be able to relate to the children that come into that court. A lot of children that come into that court are, urban children. A lot of the children come from broken homes. They deal with substance abuse in their families. So I believe that I can be there to relate to them, to encourage them to do well.
Fatima, I'll give it to you.
Thank you, and thank you also for welcoming me on the show as well. What I want people to know about me is that I believe that there's endless possibilities for children. I believe that it's important to show representation in all facets of community. I came to the United States when I was 8 years old. I spoke very little English, and which proved a challenge for me in school, in my own personal life. And then during this period that I did return to the United States from Nigeria, my sister and I both ended up in foster care when I was 10 years old due to situations in my family. And this was a very rough period in our life. And it was a time that I felt that the judges, social workers, and people all around me simply did not understand my cultural background, did not understand me as an individual because they simply did not look like me. And not only did not look like me, they did not have the diverse experience and background as well. And during this period that I spent in foster care, it was a very devastating time because they did not understand my cultural background. Both my sister and I were separated, thinking that it was in the best interest of our family. And what I want is for this not to happen to any other child in Monroe County. I want people to understand that it is important to have representation. It is important for a judge to be culturally competent. And I really am hoping that with this election year that the people of Monroe County also agree with that and support us in becoming the first African-American women judge on the bench.
Well, to Chris and Aaron, I will ask both of you this. Why do you believe we have not seen more judges representing people of different cultural backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, whether Democrat or Republican, on the bench, just in general when we look at our country?
Sure. There's not a simple answer to that question. The lack of judicial diversity we see in Monroe County and across the country exists for a host and a variety of reasons. Some of that can be as blatant as either explicit or implicit bias or racism, but there are other things that I think that the parties can improve upon. Some of the parties don't do a very good job around the country of creating a bench, of recruiting diverse candidates of color, of getting them into jobs that get them experience, career experience to be a credible candidate. So that's one issue. Also, a lot of people in the community just don't understand the importance of this issue. It would not surprise me if you took a poll of Monroe County and you probably get a fair amount of people who just naturally assume that this problem doesn't exist. They would probably assume that we already have ethnic judges on the higher courts in Monroe County. And that's not the case. Yeah. It's not the case. So I think it's partially just from a benign ignorance within the community of the importance of this issue and why it matters so much. We don't see the parties doing as great a job, and that's one of the things that the Democratic Party, I'm proud to say, is really taking a good look at and trying to improve upon this year.
I'm going to tie you in, Chris, because I know that you are part of this committee that is within, I don't want to mess up the words here, but within the Democratic Party, working to make sure that people of different ethnic backgrounds and cultures are represented on the bench.
Exactly right. And I agree with what Aaron just said. But I'll put a little sharper point on it. I think the simple reality is that in Monroe County, outside of city court, it's a virtually, well, it is an all-white bench. And we all know that Monroe County is not an all-white county. The other thing that most people don't realize is that it is a virtually Republican bench. The simple reality is that the Republicans have been much more focused on judicial races for many decades. I don't know why they've not made this a priority, because it is absolutely a community priority. Justice depends on having a diverse and highly qualified bench, and that's what these two candidates bring. But I won't let the Democratic Party off the hook quite so easily, because I think we've been far too complacent in pushing this as an issue. We've decided to change that this year, and I'm so proud to say that leadership is 110% behind us.
And just in response to you said, I don't know why the Republicans are not doing more. I read a Unite Rochester report, and you were quoted in that report from a few years ago addressing this very issue. I know GOP Chairman Bill Reilich said it's not that we're blocking anyone, it's that no one has come forward. Are you finding that to be true just in the general scheme of things?
Let me address that, if I may. I don't believe that's true. And I think part of what political parties are obligated to do is not just to wait for someone to fall into their laps. It's their obligation to identify outstanding people and then cultivate those people to move toward the bench. It is not enough to sit back and wait. We have to be proactive about this, because the simple truth is, Helen, there are dynamite African-American and Hispanic and Asian lawyers in town who, given the chance and given the support, would love to be on the bench, and our community will benefit from that. We can't wait for that to happen.
And I'll ask everyone here, why did it take the Democrats so long? Why now? Why this focus now? Why not more so before, unless there was a major focus on this and I'm just unaware of it?
Well, Two points I want to make in regards to that. First, this is an issue that certain leaders in the Democratic Party have been championing for years. Mayor Lovely Warren has been a strong fighter for diversity in the legal profession across the board, whether in private firms, the judiciary, or public service. And this is something that she's been doing, and Chris and I are both standing on her shoulders in this fight. The Democratic Party has yielded minority candidates for the higher courts before, and we were unsuccessful in those elections. Lamar Jackson has run before, Melissa Barrett has run before, both excellent lawyers. And there were, like I said earlier, there are a variety of reasons for why in my personal opinion, I think they didn't win. There was some issues with party support, maybe a lack of community involvement, the way that we're trying to generate in this election. So there are several reasons for that. But in terms of the fire that's going this year, my understanding from my conversations with Chris is that this whole thing started because of the late, great Louise Slaughter. Louise contacted Chris last year and said, we have got to do something about this. We've gone on too long with a bench in the Monroe County higher courts that are simply not reflective of the community. Louise contacted Chris, and then Chris did the excellent work of bringing in a lot of younger and more diverse attorneys to the Lawyers Committee, which is now called the Judicial Selection Committee. And that's how this thing got started, and we're ready to work.
Zulika and Fatima, I want to ask you both, in what ways would you say cultural awareness and understanding and sensitivity, how does that play a role when it comes to the cases that are brought to family court? We're talking about adoption cases, divorce issues, custody, etc.
Just being able to understand the parties that come into the court, because currently as an attorney, I work for the county law department now, and I work in their child support enforcement unit. So I'm in family court Monday through Friday. And I see a lot of litigants and children that come through those courts that have zip codes like 14621, 14609, 14606. And you can tell sometimes that there is a disconnect between the bench and those litigants just because they just may not understand the background of the folks that come in that court. I think I bring a good understanding of that because I still live in the neighborhoods that some of those litigants live in. I still live in the northwest side of the city of Rochester. I've grown up, like I said, in the city of Rochester, urban environment, things of that nature, so I understand what the litigants are going through. So I think that that would help just to bring that awareness and just bridge that disconnect between the bench and the litigants that come through the court.
And for me, I completely agree. And as I indicated before, cultural competence is very important. Just to share my own personal experience, the reason why my sister and I were separated by the courts, thinking it was in our best interest, is because myself, as I'm the firstborn in my family in a Nigerian household, and so what I would often do is I would speak first. I would make sure no one addressed my sister. I would often prevent people from addressing my sister, and that's cultural. That's something that is expected of me in my culture. And so with them lacking that sort of cultural knowledge, they thought it was in our best interest to be separated. So having cultural competence is extremely important. It's very, very critical. Not all families in Monroe County look exactly the same or behave exactly the same. And even in my role now as Chief of Staff for the Rochester City School District, I work with many families and I work with many students. And often some of them that do appear in family court, they say, "Miss, you know, we went before the judge and they did not understand why I couldn't go to school. I had to go to work. I'm helping out with my family." So those types of things are important for people to understand that family makeup is often different. Some people have to make decisions based on their financial background or just the makeup of their family.
We are closing in on a minute. I want to ask a question, and it's going to follow up to what you said, Aaron, in terms of you would guess that voters, if you took a poll, they would have no idea in terms of the background of the judges that sit on the bench. That being said, what can be done in terms of making sure that voters are able to distinguish one candidate from another, what they are offering to the table, besides ways to help them besides just seeing names on a lawn, you know, posting, that kind of a thing?
We need to talk. It's as simple as talking. We need to have much more substantive discussions about the role of our courts and how important that they are. And we need to break up the common knowledge of how our courts are portrayed. There's this legal fiction out there, and it's become a common fiction now, that good judging consists of robotically applying the law, and you're completely devoid of any sort of interpretation, and nothing matters unless facts and evidence come in. But that's not the way judges think. That's not the way human beings think. We bring our life experiences to everything that we do, and that's why this is so important.
All right, we have to close for now, but I want to have a huge thank you to all of you for joining me and for weighing in on this discussion. We have invited the Republican candidates in the race for Monroe County Family Court to join me here on Need to Know. Stay tuned for that interview later this spring. The general election is scheduled for November 6th, and continue to follow WXXI News for the latest on the candidates and the issues at WXXInews.org. It was renowned cultural anthropologist Margaret Mead who said the young, free to act on their initiative, can lead their elders in the direction of the unknown. How does that happen? Some might say it begins with young people sharing their perspectives on the issues splashed across news headlines. But over at WAYO Radio's Fresh Perspectives program, the teens driving that show say it also involves celebrating and highlighting their peers while starting a dialogue that impacts their community. Joining me to share more is Fresh Perspectives radio host Nazir James and Jay Long, and show producer Wendy Lowe. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for being here.
Hi, yes.
So just to get started, Jay, Nazir, tell me, in your own words, describe What is the Fresh Perspectives program all about?
Okay, so on Fresh Perspectives, sometimes we interview local teens in the area from various places. Recently, we had some kids from East High read some of their short stories, which was really cool, you know? Sometimes when we can't get any guests, Wendy and I will sometimes just talk about recent issues that are happening in the country, you know? When the Parkland shootings first happened, we talked a lot about those, and, you know, we're still talking about that, of course. Recent events in Rochester, I will admit, I've only just moved to Rochester, so I'm kind of not in the know about how all of this works sometimes.
Right.
But it's interesting to hear and to be able to give my own perspectives on someone who's new to the area and someone who has lived in very different places from Rochester. I just came from Birmingham, which is in Alabama, for those of you who don't know, and I was born in Dayton. So we discussed important issues in not only our community, but in the national community.
And Nazir, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, well, Jay pretty much, she wrapped it up for us because, like, it's...
So you say young people, I'm gonna kind of...
Just a nice variety of topics. I'm going to backtrack for just a moment because, Wendy, I understand that Team at Wayo approached you and essentially said in so many words, come up with a radio show idea. Talk about why a show run by teens, driven by teens. Why was that important for you?
Well, basically they were asking everybody to come up with radio shows, and I know some of the people over there. They're a wonderful crew of people, by the way. And I thought, well, you know, I teach teens creative writing in the summers at Writers and Books, and I love what teens come up with. And my son went to school with Nazir and is only 19 himself. I just like being around young people because they always shift my perspective, and it was important to me that teens have an opportunity to talk to the community about what concerns them. I find they're dealing with different things than we did.
Right.
We don't know. We're always telling them what to do, how to handle this, I find that today's world has completely different issues than the ones I grew up with. Of course, there's certain human issues that are the same all across.
Nazir, I saw you nodding when you said in terms of shifting perspectives, and Wendy mentioned, you know, teens share different things than I've dealt with when you were growing up. What are some of those things?
Well, like Wendy said, times change, but us as humans, we have some of the same issues where, you know, there'll always be violence amongst us. There will always be, you know, problems, but I feel like, you know, if the older generation could, you know, guide us a bit better and, you know, understand that, you know, times are different, then we can have a better understanding. But, you know, for the first time, I feel like we have our own voice, we have our own outlet outside of, you know, the typical music and stuff like this. Like, this is something cool to me. This is very pizzazz for me. I like this.
I want to dig into some of the things that you've talked about on the show just a bit. One thing Wendy mentioned to me in advance was school environment. It was a topic that you discussed on the show, and how some teens have described their school environment as something like a prison. The school feels like talk about that. What do you mean? Some viewers will be surprised to hear you say that.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much I can personally talk about that because currently in Rochester, I go to the Harley School, which is a very open environment, and it's very nice and free. But back in Alabama, I went to the Alabama School of Fine Arts, which was a fine arts school. And it was nice, I guess, but the building was concrete and they had a courtyard, but it was gated off. And when we drove by it, we always joked, oh man, here we are at prison. You know, because people are so scared about what might happen in schools, especially schools in inner city areas. Rochester was in the heart of Birmingham. The Alabama School of Fine Arts was in the heart of Birmingham. There's always worry about in cities, you know, if it can happen in a place like Parkland, which, as far as I understand, is kind of in the suburbs and the such. It's like, who knows what could happen in the cities? And I know that in inner city schools in Rochester, there are metal detectors at the door, and when people are greeted, they aren't greeted warmly with a smile like, hi, welcome to school. It's like, hey, go through the detector, and otherwise, if you don't, we're gonna be like,
like you're at an airport or something, and it's kind of difficult because I have a totally different understanding. I went to Word of Inquiry. I graduated from Word of Inquiry. I had been there all 13 years of my educational purposes, and it was a very warm environment at 58. It felt like family. Even now looking back, I dislike being in the environment because you have to go there, you have to wake up, go there, learn, do this, that, and the third every day. But looking back, it's kind of like, well, the teachers had to do it as well, and it was a really good school and make you feel really loved.
When you discuss issues like this, okay, so school environment, you discussed Parkland, you were on the air talking about that, a variety of other topics that some are concerning topics for you and for your peers. Is the idea then to create a platform to talk about it, to vent, or is it about trying to create change, making sure the audience hears so that maybe change can take place?
I think it's a bit of both, I think that people on Fresh Perspectives need a place to sometimes talk about how they feel. This is really, in this technological world where we can get information at literally just the tap of a finger, we're exposed to a lot more than, even my mom as a child or you as a child ever really had to deal with. And sometimes you do need a place to just get that out and really express how it's heavy, it's wearing, but also to be able to express it and maybe inspire someone to listen and go, maybe I can do something about that. I think that's really important. We as people, the best thing we can do is inspire others to be better. And if there's enough people moving to make a change, then that change will happen.
I want you to hold that thought. I just want to get to you for 1 second, Wendy, because I know it's important for you as the producer. It's important for you to step back and let the young people drive this. How do you find that balance in terms of producing, but also allowing them to run the show?
Well, it's hard to keep me from talking. I'm a talker, but there were days when I had somebody who could work the board, and I could just sit in the back and not even be on a mic. When I'm working the board, the mic's right there. It's very tempting, but basically, the hosts ask the questions, and sometimes I can't help myself. I can't bite my tongue.
You have to jump in.
I have to ask a follow-up question.
It's really natural.
It's a natural conversation.
Yeah, it's not. We have an intro script and everything, but otherwise, it's generally, if we have someone on air, Wendy generally comes up with a couple questions, and we're allowed to input too, obviously.
Right.
And we just talk, and I think that's really nice. And then on days when we don't have anyone coming in, literally right before we go on, Wendy will ask, "Hey, so what should we talk about today?"
I want to bring up, because you said inspire, Jay, and I want to address that because in addition to tackling some tough subjects, it is also, I love that you highlight teens in Rochester. So we're talking about writers, poets, musicians, artists, activists, you name it. Why is it so important for teens to celebrate other teens?
Well, all we got. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, it's okay.
I feel like we understand each other a bit more than our elders understand. It's like if you step back and understand, like we're going through the same thing. We're all in the same stages of life. We're transitioning to becoming adolescents. So if we can praise each other and we can regroup and understand that it's about that time. Yeah.
Right. We're going to close for there. I've loved having you on. We're out of time, unfortunately, but I'm grateful for your time today, and thank you for joining me. And I also want to thank your entire team for the topics that you are making sure get covered on the air. Yes. You can tune in live to Fresh Perspectives on Thursdays at 4 p.m., 104.3 FM. You can also check out previous episodes of the talk show. They are available online at wayofm.org. One Rochester-based artist says curiosity and play are two must-haves for her when it comes to creating art. Maria Victoria Savka draws inspiration from the world around her. She's a printmaker, painter, and collage artist who says she loves to explore color and composition. WXXI's Arts in Focus recently visited Maria at her studio. Take a look.
I like play a lot, and I think that's really important. Art, or really anything that you do, you need to be able to be curious and play with it. I work with a variety of mediums. I've been playing with collage, printmaking, painting, drawing. It's really intriguing that I can incorporate so many different mediums into one piece. Or I can be very, very specific and delicate and really focus on my technical skills in one specific medium. I work in dry point printmaking primarily at this point. It's a really easy form of printmaking that I'm able to do everywhere, so I kind of have my plates and my X-Acto knife and needle tools in my bag at any point throughout the day, and I'm able to pull it out. I really enjoy the medium, and a lot of my work is very process-oriented, so I end up becoming intrigued in understanding how everything works, the backstory, getting really in tune with the actual medium. I use copper, zinc, plexi, sealed cardboard. What you do is you're literally scratching into the plate, with a sharp tool. Every little scratch is where, when you ink your plate, the ink holds. So from there, I wipe away the plate from all the excess ink, and I have my piece. It's ready to go. All I have to do is flip it over onto the paper, add moisture, and put it through the printing press. Usually I like adding sparks of color, playing around with the atmosphere. It adds a lot of energy. So adding those little spots of color really emphasizes either a mood, whimsy. It's just a lot to really just play with. It's exciting. So my art is generated from the world around me, my experiences and memories. My chickens in my house, you can tell they have personalities. And I really hope that their personalities shine through in my work. For right now with my prints, they're really fun and playful because I've been starting to play with a lot of shinkole, which is a technique that you're essentially putting a decorative paper or a highlight of color onto the sturdier form of paper, and then you are printing over that with your actual plate. So essentially that adds a pop of color, and it changes, I think, the mood a lot. When I make my artwork, I feel like I get to know the piece. I'm really captivated in creating a piece that is strong and beautiful.
And that wraps up another edition of Need to Know, Rochester's News Magazine. I'm your host, Helene Bienduty Hofer. Thank you for joining me tonight and throughout the weekend. I will see you next week on WXXI TV and online at WXXInews.org.